Hey everybody, Mr. Conan here, and today I'm going to talk to you about a method of factoring called factoring by grouping. Now this method is useful when we're dealing with an equation where our a value is greater than 1. So here we have the equation 7x squared plus 20x minus 3. Now the first thing we're going to do in this strategy is we're going to look at our first term and our last term. I have 7x squared and I have a negative 3. I'm going to multiply these two terms together to give me negative 21x squared. Now to find my two factors, what I'm going to do is find factors of negative 21x squared that add up together to give me 20x. So the first thing I'm going to do is just write out my factors of just positive 21. So I have 1 and 21, and I have 3 and 7. Now, because this 21 is negative, I have to figure out which side of this chart, the smaller numbers or the larger numbers, is going to be negative. So I can look up top to see that I'm dealing with a positive 20 here. If I'm going to add these factors together, they have to equal a positive number. So the larger number is going to end up being positive. Therefore, we know our 1 is going to be negative and our 3 is going to be negative. Now, because we have this x squared term here, we have to make sure we add x's to all of these numbers. X times x is x squared, so since we're trying to find our factors negative 21x squared, each of these factors has to have 1x. Now we are going to find which pair of these factors add up to give me 20x. We have negative 1 plus 21x gives me 20x, and we have a negative 3x plus 7x gives me 4x. Now we can see here we wanted that 20x, so the pair negative 1x plus 21x is my factors. So now I'm going to rewrite my equation 7x squared plus 20x minus 3 as 7x squared minus 1x plus 21x minus 3. As you can see, instead of just writing that 20x there, we are writing our two factors that add up together to give me 20x. Now that I have rewritten my equation in this way, I can start grouping. I'm going to look at the first two terms, and I'm going to look at the second two terms. And I'm going to find out what they have in common, what I can pull out, what I can factor out. Since I'm dealing with a 7x squared and a minus 1x, I know both those numbers are prime, so the only thing I can pull out of them is 1. That's not very helpful, but they both share an x term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that x out. I know that x times 7x gives me 7x squared, so that'll go in my parentheses. And I know that negative 1 times x gives me negative 1x. So that works out with my red team. Now looking at my blue team, I have 21x minus 3. 21 is factorable by 1 and 21, and 7 and 3, as we saw before. But 3 is only factorable by 1 and 3. So what we're going to do is pull out that 3. When I pull out that 3, I know 3 times 7x gives me 21x. And 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3. Now as you notice, I have two parentheses that have the exact same values inside of them. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to pull that down. I have a 7x minus 1. Now we can kind of think of this as our doubly distributed property that we talked about in our factoring video. I have an x plus 3 on the outside of the same parentheses, so what I can rewrite that as is 7x minus 1 times x plus 3. So there I have my factored form of this equation.